There it was, curling between her fingertips, humming in her palms. Amidst the candlelight, in this magic moment, she could focus, draw the energy outward. And in this moment, her questions were answered, not in a clear, direct way, yet through the sensation of everything all at once. Suddenly, she felt calm. She felt like everything would be okay. Her mind flashed with images of a face, the face of one she lost, the eyes that connected her to this other world. For the first time in far too long, tears flowed down her cheeks, releasing the emotion trapped in her chest. She watched in wonder, her soul in her hands. With it before her, she could finally see how beautiful it was. Welcome to Mirrors, a collection of horrors, history, and hauntings. My name is Gabby. I'm taking you along with me to the most haunted places in my home state of Pennsylvania. What I've loved so much about Season 1 is getting to not only delve deeper into the locations I already knew about, but discovering so many new stories and fascinating places. I believe being from here is a huge reason why I write horror and am so interested in the paranormal. For today's episode, I made my way out to western Pennsylvania, to a location hidden at the end of a series of back roads. I parked at the bottom of a hill, looking up to an abandoned town. This is Yellow Dog Village.
My favorite part of Yellow Dog is just the amount of stuff that people have left behind. Some of the houses are practically like walking into a time capsule, and it's really individual rooms as well. There's one room that, in particular, that has or that used to have a He-Man action set in there with like a wood panel television and a bunch of clearly like 90s era posters on the wall, and they just left all their clothing hanging up for work and stuff like that. It's stuff like that that really, I just really love it. It's really, you get to see a glimpse of how these people used to live.
That's Josh, one of the team members at Yellow Dog Village. You'll hear from him throughout the episode, as well as another team member named Debbie.
I really love to just think of the people who were there and the stories that were there and the life that was there and the humanity that was there, just like me. And it's really fascinating when I see layers of things, like layers of wallpaper, layers of carpet, layers of flooring, layers of paint, layers. It's fascinating. It's fascinating how time takes over and nature takes over. And so just imagining things, imagining what life was there. There's this one set of stairs that somebody took the time to put individual colors of carpet on each piece of the stair. So, what personality lived there and did that, and for what reason did they do that? So it's just, I love the idea of thinking about the people that live there. And then likewise, I really love finding records of things. So when I get to dig in and actually, confirm who lived in this house, or we recently found some records that there was a band. There was basically a boy band from the 60s called the Yellow Dog 5, I think,
Yeah,
or the Yellow Dog 6. I have to look up what the name was, but absolutely love that this was a place of life. It's not just an abandoned place. It was a place of life. And so it's a place of humanity, and that's what I love about it.
In episode 4, we talked about Concrete City, a now abandoned company town for the DL&W Railroad's coal division in Nanticoke, Pennsylvania. Company towns were quite common in Pennsylvania to house the workers of local factories and mines. Yellow Dog was another one of those towns. In the early 20th century, workers of the Pittsburgh Limestone Company were struggling to get to work just because of the difficult commute. To prevent a union from forming, the company decided to build a community near their mines. This is how Yellow Dog Village got its name. A yellow dog contract is one that's created to keep workers from remaining in or joining a union. Starting in 1910, the homes of Yellow Dog Village were built, with a mix of duplex and single-family homes for the workers, and a large home at the top of the hill for the manager. There's also a boarding house, which would have housed single people and children. The Pittsburgh Limestone Company was eventually acquired by U.S. Steel, which shut down the mines due to a lack of productivity in the 1950s. That's when Yellow Dog became a mushroom farm, and it was actually the world's largest mushroom farm. In the early 2000s, people were getting sick at Yellow Dog, which was later discovered to be because of E. coli in the water. By 2012, the houses were abandoned. Financial hardships were a devastating reality for the residents here. Throughout its later years, the house's owners sold anything of value from the homes to support themselves. While I was visiting the town, the current owner, Latif, shared that it's believed drugs were sold on the property as well, even after its abandonment. Despite the problems with this town, there seems to be a desperation to stay here. And there was a significant block of time where people lived here, thrived here, and raised families here, which has created this everlasting connection to the homes here. People were eventually made to leave by law enforcement, both because of the unsafe drinking water and illegal activities happening on the property. Because of this, many of the homes are still full of personal belongings, like the owners simply vanished or got up and left, abandoning all they ever knew. I'm coming to you from Yellow Dog Village. I just stepped into one of the first houses on the property, and I think just my initial reaction is that there's like so much of the people who lived here left here. There are clothes, there's perfume bottles, there's even newspapers. This one's from 2010. There's just a lot left here, and it really shows that this history is so much more recent. I know when I think of abandoned places, I think of like such a distant past, but this is more recent history, and I think it makes it an interesting place to explore because you get to see so much more of how these houses were left. Everything is kind of left like thrown around, like there's just like boxes with piles of clothes that are like spilling out of them and all over the floor. Different self-care products that are still here that aren't even opened. And in this one room, there's like nail files that are spilled all over the floor. So I don't know if that's because this town was abandoned and that's from people coming in, or even like animals coming in and rummaging through things. Or maybe that's just how everything was left because people got out of here in a hurry. Some people were even forced out, the owner said. People kind of left and didn't really have a choice. Today, the interiors have water damage. The ceiling fans even bent from moisture. The houses are being reclaimed by nature, with vines growing down the banisters and hanging from the roofs. Walking through the town alone, exploring the homes, was eerie, solely because of the air of emptiness. As usual, I'll be posting pictures on my social media, but to give you a visual reference, I kept thinking of those opening scenes of District 12 in the Hunger Games, an old mining town falling into disrepair. Former owner Joe Meyer had lived in the mine manager's house after acquiring the property. He worked to bring their homes to their current condition while preserving the lives and histories they hold. It was interesting to see just how much character each home has, and how the town itself has such a personality. I'm taking pictures of the house's exteriors and just like finding faces in the houses, which I know that's just totally my imagination. Just like with the color of the homes and the way they are laid out, it looks like a face on the front. It just has like, the town has so much personality and life to it. It has like a whimsical feeling to it. I just found some pictures. I know I feel so emotionally connected to pictures. I think that they hold so much memory. So it's kind of hard to just see them laying here. Thinking to Centralia and Concrete City and the other, abandoned places that I've been in my life, there's not many like tangible memories and things to actually see. It's just, it's that feeling, and that's kind of why I coupled Centralia and Concrete City together, just because there's not, much to actually look at. It's just kind of this sense that there were people there before you, and now there aren't. So to be in Yellow Dog Village is completely different because everything is still here, and you see it scattered across the floor, covered in dust, broken. There's someone's baby book here. Someone who was born in 1994, so again, fairly recent history, and it has pictures of them, a lock of their hair, memories that the parent put in about like them growing up, different people that were really important to him. And then you see toys and clothes around. It probably belonged to that kid or his siblings. There's a little pumpkin bucket that you carry around on Halloween. And I love Halloween, so I'm sure there's so many great memories attached to that. Yeah, this is fascinating.
Being in each home, I felt like I was getting glimpses into the lives of those who lived there.
I'm outside one of the homes, and it has a welcome mat. Well, it says dogs welcome, people tolerated. Just like, it's funny that there's still like those little things that give insight into who these people were and like their family. Obviously these people like dogs, but just like that their welcome mat is still out on the front porch is really cool, but it's just like insane to me that all this is still here.
In another home, I found a few books.
This one here is The Rise of Robert the Bruce. It's open to page 127 and just lying on the floor. I mean, as a writer, I love books, and I love like getting to know people through what they read, and just like I said about the welcome mat and like the different things that I'm finding, it's interesting to just imagine the people that were here, because through what they've left behind and just what that tells about their personality.
Another home seemed to be owned by a bus driver prior to its abandonment.
This person must have been a bus driver, because there is a school bus driver manual open here in the kitchen. There's even a general knowledge quiz about being a bus driver, and there's like pieces of it scattered throughout the upstairs, and it's actually filled out.
Out of everything I saw, what struck me most was the photographs.
I found more pictures, and this is actually someone's wedding pictures. So there's obviously a lot of sentimental value there in that one image that is now left behind.
I came to Yellow Dog with very basic background knowledge, having done little research on its history or paranormal claims. I wanted to give the village a chance to tell its story first, and it sure did.
There's a large boarding house at the top of the one hill here, and that's another building that, just because of structural concerns, no one's allowed in it right now. But that would be where like single people, or the owner said even some kids lived. It's interesting to see the variety of architecture here, because again, like thinking to Concrete City, everything was so everything was exactly the same. So here to see the buildings that all look a little bit different, all have that personality that I was talking about. It is really cool to be here and to see that.
Yellow Dog is supposedly very haunted. I'm hoping to get back there someday for a formal investigation, but it was interesting to just be there and get a sense of the location first. Because Yellow Dog Village gives such a strong feeling of real human lives, I decided to conduct a few EVP sessions to see if I could capture any voices. Nothing came through, although something caught my eye when looking back through my pictures. In one photo, taken looking out the back window of one of the homes, there are strange dark spots and what appears to be a mist. I can't remember there being any torn screens or broken glass in this specific spot that would have caused the discoloration. It could have been something with the film, so it's not necessarily paranormal. Although it does tell quite the story of energies left roaming the village. Paranormal investigations have been held on the property, and there's been unexplained activity with motion detecting equipment like REM pods. Kristen Lee's investigation, which I'll have linked in the sources section, also caught 2 human figures on a thermal imaging gun, which detects heat signatures. I asked Josh and Debbie about their involvement in the paranormal investigations and any experiences they've either had or heard of.
We've had several different paranormal investigative teams at the village, and every single one of them have come back with interesting stories or encounters and things of that nature. But personally, I have been in one of the paranormal investigations, our very first one, with a group called Paracurious, and we had set up so many, like, all kinds of different paranormal investigatory tools around what we call the boarding house. And it was REM pods, they had EMF detectors, they had everything. And then the owner was there with us as well, and he just asked the question, would you like us to rebuild? And everything went off all at once. And I have never experienced anything like that in any kind of paranormal investigation whatsoever. So we have had a lot of different things happen. Our owner has also experienced a couple of things that he can't really explain. But as far as, like, personally, that's one that I can truly back up. And you can see it for yourself on YouTube under the Paracurious Yellow Dog Village video.
Yeah. And likewise, I also I was part of an investigation, and there were some things that were quite coincidental. So I'm more of a skeptic, but there were some things that were very coincidental that I can't explain away. So REM pods going off at moments that were very good timing, or there was actually somebody banging. There was a loud bang and a door closing downstairs in the building when somebody was upstairs asking questions, and there was no wind. So there's no reason the door should have closed when nobody else was in that building.
Perhaps these houses were even haunted prior to their abandonment, because of various occurrences throughout the village's history.
Yeah, and we definitely have had stories. We know of different things that have occurred at the village. We don't share that information because if somebody does encounter something, we want to verify the information on our own without sharing that information publicly. But we have had former residents who lived in some of the houses tell us of some encounters that they had. Some residents even who lived there as children have they remember seeing things and having things happen in the buildings in which they lived.
And just to jump off of what Debbie was saying there, we have had some certain tragedies happen at the village,
Yeah.
and we don't share those with investigators because we don't want those stories to affect their investigation in any kind of a
Exactly.
way.
Yeah.
We want everything that happens there, as far as the paranormal, to happen there organically.
Yep.
And we feel that's the best way. And yeah.
Yep. So we don't provide any names or dates or information about those happenings. That way, everything can be organic.
Like I said, I believe the people who lived here have a lasting connection to these houses and the surrounding land. So perhaps those who have passed, either here or in other places, have come back here. Or maybe past versions of living people are still here as residual energies. Exploring Yellow Dog Village inspired an investigation into haunted objects. Seeing the photographs, toys, perfumes, all of the personal items left behind, it was clear to me that objects can hold energy. At Yellow Dog, that energy was that of the people who had been there before. It was nostalgic and peaceful, an authentic view into someone's life. Certain objects, though, hold an energy that is far more sinister. At the time this episode releases, I'll be getting ready to spend the weekend in Gettysburg for the Warrens Paracon. The collection of Ed and Lorraine Warren, the famous paranormal investigator couple, is being brought to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and put on display. So I thought, why not discuss a few of these objects and the haunting tales behind them? The first and the most famous is the Annabelle doll. In 1970, a 28-year-old nurse was given a Raggedy Ann doll as a birthday present from her mother. Shortly after receiving it, she noticed the doll changing positions on its own. This activity, although strange, was simple enough at first. Legs would cross, an arm would move, something like that. It wasn't necessarily unsettling. Then, the nurse and her roommate would find written messages asking for help. They'd then find the doll in totally different rooms from where they left it. One afternoon, one of the woman's friends woke up in her apartment from a nap to feel like he was being strangled. The doll was staring directly at him. The girl and her roommate hired a medium who connected them with the spirit of Annabelle Higgins. Annabelle had allegedly died on that property when she was 7. Annabelle asked if she could stay there, and the roommates gave her permission to inhabit the doll. After that, activity just ramped up, and the Warrens were contacted for help. Ed and Lorraine Warren believed the spirit was inhuman, and rather than wanting to stay attached to the doll, it was looking for a human to possess. I'm sure you've heard of Annabelle if you've seen the Annabelle movies, but you probably haven't heard of the Shadow Doll. The Shadow Doll is made of real human bones and teeth, and was created as a part of a ritual. Photos of the doll would be sent to people that its creator didn't like, because it said seeing the doll would curse you. The doll would show up in people's dreams, causing deeply disturbing nightmares. It's claimed this doll has even caused heart attacks or deaths because of how terrifying these dreams are. At one point, a couple purchased the doll from an antique shop. They soon began experiencing these nightmares, and the husband would find scratches all over his body. And of course, this is mirrors, so if there's a haunted mirror, I'm going to talk about it. The Warrens have an item in their collection known as the conjuring mirror, which was used to summon spirits on its reflection. The mirror was once owned by a man in New Jersey named Stephen Zellner, but he gave it to the Warrens out of a genuine concern for his safety. Stephen got the mirror because of its supposed ability to contact the dead, and he asked the mirror to show him his future. He worked for months to hone his skills and use this mirror, and this descended into an obsession. He started to see his own future, as well as the future of those who had done him wrong. Not only could he see their futures, but he could influence them, and he tried to hurt them. Stephen had made a grave mistake, and the spirits he called upon were released into his home. These objects and more will soon be in Pennsylvania, in a town that is already very haunted and active, so it will be interesting to see how all that plays out. I'll be posting more about Paracon on my Instagram at mirrorspod if you want to check it out. And while these specific objects have nothing to do with Yellow Dog Village, it was interesting to consider all of the different ways objects can capture history and spirit. I will say, though, there were some creepy dolls and decapitated doll heads scattered about the grounds of Yellow Dog Village. You can visit Yellow Dog by going to one of their open houses. Since my visit, I've really enjoyed watching other explorers document their experiences. It's interesting to see the different things that everyone finds. The town is now owned by a couple named Latif and Mayasa, who have turned the space into a farm and are working to preserve the history and open the homes up for more visitors, potentially even for overnight stays. It's an absolutely fascinating place, and I would totally recommend visiting.
I'm looking out to one of the back porches and just seeing all of the wild plants growing, and then the rest of the house is framed by the door here. It's very serene and peaceful here. I could see how at night it might be a little creepier being in these really rundown houses. But for now, there's something almost peaceful about it. Even, in the chaos of things just strewn about and houses falling down, and it feels peaceful for some reason.
Towards the end of my visit, I sat atop the hill to journal about my experiences. Watching the sunset over the village was so beautiful. I felt this strong connection to the location. Aside from the owners and potentially some ghosts, there's lots of animals that occupy the town. I made a goat friend, and I love just sitting there and watching the animals walk around and go in and out of the houses. It was all very idyllic and had this almost mystical feel to it.
One of the most rewarding things that I've really ever experienced in my life is seeing the look on these people's faces as they revisit their childhood homes or revisit the homes that they used to live in. And you can see it in their eyes that they're reliving childhood memories and reliving these amazing memories from this place. I've yet to hear a person say something bad or they had a bad experience at Yellow Dog as they were living here.
We get to preserve that and make sure these stories are told, but even if the houses are gone, the stories are told.
Driving away from Yellow Dog, I thought about the concept of home, which I know for me has changed a lot over the last few years through graduating college, moving across the country and then back, and also working through my early grief. Through it all, I've known I have a home in Pennsylvania, and it's been really cool for me to see so much of my home state through this podcast. Just thinking of that really helped me understand why a place like Yellow Dog Village would be haunted. The attachment to a physical place, the love of a place as a home, was abruptly broken, and the personal items that made these houses homes were left behind in the abandonment. That brings us to the end of this week's episode. Tune in next week for the grand finale of Season 1. Until then, stay spooky. This has been Mirrors, Horrors, History, and Hauntings, produced and hosted by Gabby Hope Fry. Check out the show's Instagram and TikTok at Mirrors Podcast to see pictures and videos from today's episode, as well as other paranormal content. Access bonus episodes and exclusive content by joining the Mirrors Patreon.